hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there.
They were talking about the 1984 horror crime film Silent Night, Deadly Night, directed by Charles Sellier Jr., starring Robert Brian Wilson, Lilyan Chauvin, Linnea Quigly, and Gilmer McCormick. Silent Night, Deadly Night tells the story of Bill Chapman, a young lad that watches his parents get unalived in cold blood on Christmas Eve. What starts as a chilling, gripping tale of childhood trauma turns into a nasty and often hilarious take on Christmas sentiment and the ramifications of sadistic practices in disciplining children. Silent Night, Deadly Night blew me away. I was expecting low-budget fare, bottom-of-the-barrel slop, but what I received was a pretty nicely packaged, quietly sleazy Christmas slasher. Mired with controversy upon its release in 1984, this Santa definitely still slays for the audience of today.
Controversy about the film, when angry parents picketed theaters where it played.
And Silent Night, Deadly Night now has the distinction of joining I Spit on Your Grave as one of the two most contemptible films I've seen. And I don't mean to think it's campy, it really is quite awful.
It's got this murky graininess to it, a breathtaking quality in its cinematography. It's equal parts sleazy and captivating, and I was surprised by how gripping it was. Feeling akin to Friday the 13th in both aesthetic and execution, Silent Night, Deadly Night preys on the childhood innocence of Christmas to make its subject matter more terrifying. It feels like this movie is written into the DNA of the Terrifier franchise with its mean-spirited take on slashers, especially given the lengths that Art the Clown goes to in Terrifier 3. I wouldn't say Billy is nearly as iconic as Art, but the Silent Night, Deadly Night faction may have some fighting words there. This movie looks incredible. Much of the exterior shots of Utah were shot first in order to preserve the snowy conditions, which is to the film's benefit. It feels cold throughout the movie, further aiding in its tone. That icy chill immediately set me on edge, as I knew that Billy and his adoring parents were in for something bad. Perry Botkin Jr.'s score aids even more in this feeling, as the scenes displaying toy store Christmas decorations, nutcrackers, and animatronic Santas became so much creepier with his compositions. But for 1984, this film went the distance. The opening scenes alone make it very clear. The world of Silent Night, Deadly Night is staunchly anti-Christmas and ominously violent. From the moment a man, credited only as Killer Santa, unalives a convenience store clerk who is nasty in his own right, we know that things are not going to end well. This is going to be a tale of violence and terror. Billy meeting his mute grandfather, only having him start talking to Billy after the rest of the family has conveniently left the room, adds a moment of bizarrely tense humor. Luckily, while the first third of the movie is excellently paced and full of tension, the second and third acts added a levity that completely pulled the carpet out from under me. Once Billy goes full rampage, this thing basically becomes a comedy. Though it's worth noting that these moments are so horrific that they venture into that comedic territory. Much of the movie is well acted, especially by the child actors. The younger versions of Billy especially I found captivating. And having watched this in the 4K restoration that a friend gave to me a couple weeks ago, being able to see their tears and facial expressions in 4K clarity made their performances even more compelling. These kids put in some great work and are a large part of what makes the terror of this movie succeed in its earlier and later moments. Linnea Quigly shows up and does her thing, which I was happy to see as I really enjoyed her performance as Trash in Return of the Living Dead. The only real qualm I had with the movie's acting was with the actor who played adult Billy. He wasn't particularly bad, but after watching the documentary about this movie called Sleigh Bells Ring, finding out that this was his first acting performance made things make more sense. His delivery of punish or naughty are delightfully campy, but part of me could have seen an actor with much more charisma and chutzpah put in a much more comedic and hammier performance. Perhaps it's this less than stellar performance that makes his Mad Santa work, but I never felt like his screen presence added much to the role. That said, he's still serviceable and part of the movie's charm at the end of the day. Setting is really important in this movie, which I mentioned in my recent video about the future of the Chucky franchise. The aforementioned cinematography, towering mountains, and pillowy snow all set into motion a particular mood. It definitely feels like Christmas. They also did an incredible job with the set design, though the real MVP may be the location scout, given the movie's lower budget. The paper decorations in the orphanage especially made everything feel very lived in and real. My favorite set may have been the toy store, full of so much IP-driven product. Seriously, I did not expect to see a Star Wars Dewback Patrol toy in this movie. Iris toys could have easily been a KB Toys I shopped as a kid, for real. So if the movie feels like Christmas, that means it probably feels a lot like childlike wonder. This childlike wonder adds a nuance to the film that makes many of its moments both deeply disturbing and utterly hilarious. Watching Father O'Brien be mistakenly shot by the police in front of a group of children is haunting, but I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of the moment. If you think about it, these children are going to have to live with the memory of seeing someone shot in front of them during the Christmas season. That's messed up. The movie does a good job of setting up a compelling backstory for Billy, and this was by far my favorite part of the film, especially the voyeuristic moments in the Catholic orphanage. When Billy peeps on a couple through a keyhole, which has some incredible lighting by the way, the movie begins to take a definitive stance on gaze and perception. What we consume may be considered naughty, even if that viewing is considered to be passive. This was a nice touch, and I'll add that there were some noticeably queer sensibilities in the framing decisions in many of the adult scenes of the movie. More emphasis on male body parts than female, though if you're coming to this movie for some good old TNA, you won't leave disappointed. This movie's horny factor is palpable. Billy is consistently perceived by the people around him, both as a child and an adult. When he begins to panic as the holidays approach, people see him as rude, standoffish, and are rarely supportive of him. The only person who's ever in his corner, Sister Margaret, often hovers over him to make sure he's doing well. Still, she knows that Billy harbors a dark presence and does nothing to help him once under the control of Mother Superior. Billy has lost virtually all agency by the time he arrives at Iris Toy's stockroom. And while the warm side of the door montage suggests all is well, a dark trauma resides in Billy. This trauma was explored in an interesting way, more so that at the end of the day, no one advocated for Billy or taught him how to advocate for himself. It resulted in a Christmas Eve massacre for the ages, antlers and all. It even meant that his trauma was passed on to his brother. Enter sequel territory. Luckily, one doesn't have to look too deeply on screen to see why this gem is a diamond in the rough. With its built-in marketing, this movie holds a strong place as a cult classic. And if you're looking for something a little bit different to throw on this holiday season, I strongly recommend throwing on Silent Night, Deadly Night. Maybe just wait until the children are tucked away or passed out from all the processed sugar consumption. Pairs well with a cool beer, a pack of candy canes, and maybe taking your shirt off. What do you think of Silent Night, Deadly Night? Is it a well-packaged present or a glass of spoiled milk? Leave all the comments below, and before you go, don't forget to like and smash that subscribe button. Thank you all so much for watching this video and continuing to support the channel. This may be my last video before the holidays hit, so I want to make sure to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Enjoy some time with your family, but more importantly, watch some good movies. 2025 is likely going to be a real doozy, so take a moment to rest and be merry. Until next time, punish!
You've made it through Halloween. Now try and survive Christmas.